What is up, everybody, and welcome to CTW Postgame Show Live. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, and folks, tonight the Boston Celtics, 131-95 against the Memphis Grizzlies, coming home to the parquet floor. The Boston Celtics get it done on their home floor against the Grizzlies, who in this game, they don't really look like a basketball team right now. And we'll get into that a little later. However, the Celtics in this one absolutely dominate the Grizzlies from start to finish and now achieve a record of 6-7 on the season after this win tonight. I guess that was the downside of, or rather the upside of losing the other night, is the record the Celtics achieved tonight, the 6-7 record. However, the Celtics, they do beat the Memphis Grizzlies at home, and this was widely expected with the Celtics, their recent schedule. They've been very up and down as of late, and let's just face it, this entire season. But this was a matchup in which I felt the Celtics should have came out and won. Okay, this felt like it felt a little bit like last Wednesday when the Celtics faced the Washington Wizards at home. That was a game where the Celtics faced an opponent. Even if you go back to Monday against the Pelicans, at the beginning of the season, those are two games, even the Jazz game, if you want to count that, those are two games in which the Celtics are expected to win. And they ultimately do in the end. And they prove themselves to be a better team than the bottom feeders of teams, yet they're still not necessarily at the top. They're somewhere in that mid-tier. The Celtics will lose against the good teams. They'll beat the bad teams, and everybody in the middle, the Sixers, the Raptors, everybody in the middle, the Celtics will struggle against, and it'll be a back and forth fight to the end, and it'll be a lead tracker like we saw the other night, it going back and forth against the Sixers. However, looking at the lead tracker tonight, the Boston Celtics, 38-point lead, the largest lead of the night for the C's. The Grizzlies never held a lead in this game. It was never tied. There were no lead changes. The longest run was 11 by the Celtics. Quite frankly, just not an entertaining game, really, from start to finish. It never felt like the Grizzlies were ever going to hop back in this, especially in that second quarter. You see a little bit of a dip there in the lead tracker, but the Celtics just push the throttle forward at the end of that second quarter. And what I like about this lead tracker is you can see the quarterly upticks. You see the Celtics doing well right before the half and then finishing off that stretch after the half. They continued it into the second half and then built on their lead furthermore in the fourth quarter to start the fourth, and then eventually late there in the fourth to close out the game. The game was closed out pretty well after half, and you see there's a lot of columns here on this lead track. You got to kind of squint to look at the smaller numbers on the lead tracker, but a lot of columns. The Celtics get it done, especially in that second half. And the Celtics, they dominate in many facets of this game, which I'm noticing we may have a video lag in here. So I apologize if that is the case. It appears to be the case. Okay, that appears to be the case. What can we do to fix this right now? I'm not really sure. Well, let's see what we can do. What can we do here? Maybe we can toggle that, right? I don't know. My video feed's a little off. My audio still might be good. I'm not sure. But regardless, to keep going on this conversation, when it comes to the Celtics and the Grizzlies, as it does not appear the video feed is getting any better here, folks, but we'll keep going for the sake of the broadcast. But ultimately, the numbers from this game tonight, the Celtics dominated in many facets, 58-41 in the rebounding category, 34 assists for the Celtics tonight. And we've been talking about lately some of the Celtics' selfish play. And not necessarily in a completely negative sense, because most of the time the conversation is laced upon the Celtics playing their best when they're not selfish, when they're unselfish, and the Celtics reverting back into this stagnant, inefficient style of offense when you see more of that selfish nature come out of the offense and out of players in general. But tonight, 34 assists, that shows some of the unselfishness for the Celtics. And then you go down, you go down to some of the hustle categories and some of these numbers. Fast break points, 14-5 for the Celtics tonight, and then 34-12 in second chance points. I mean, just think about all of those second chances in which the Grizzlies, if they're grabbing a defensive rebound, and this correlates 100% with the rebounding category, 58-41 tonight, as I already mentioned. But those second chance points, that's what won the Celtics this game, along with their great shooting throughout the night. The Grizzlies, as a team, 26 defensive rebounds, 15 offensive rebounds for the Grizzlies. For the Celtics, 18 offensive rebounds, but 40 defensive rebounds. And it's the defensive rebounding that tells the story. 14 rebound discrepancy there when it comes to defensive rebounds. And that's where the Celtics were able to generate all of their second chance points, is the lack of rebounding from the Grizzlies. A lot of offensive rebounding in this game in general. 15 is pretty high for the Grizzlies, I will say. So the Celtics allowing that number, not great in the rebounding category, but the Celtics do grab 18 of their own and minimize that advantage for the Grizzlies and turn it into a major advantage for themselves, especially looking at the second chance points category, factoring in the 34-12 margin there. So the Celtics won the game specifically off the, we talked about in the past, we talked about a lot the Celtics losing games off the rebounding category and their inability to rebound. The first game, that preseason it came out, the beginning of the season it came out, but the first game it was really hit home was against the Detroit Pistons at the beginning of the season. The Celtics lost that game because they could not rebound the basketball. Tonight, the Celtics beat the Grizzlies specifically because of their ability to rebound the basketball. However, that was not the only thing the Celtics hit home at against the Grizzlies, because to me, the Grizzlies as a team right now, they're in the bottom feeder category of teams. This is a team in which the Celtics should have beat, especially with no Ja Morant. Ja Morant out from this game, but even when Ja Morant's in, this team doesn't look very connected right now. There's not a good vibe surrounding the Memphis Grizzlies whatsoever. And I want to say, and I again apologize for the video feed, how it's coming out here. Can we get a check on the audio? Can we get a, let's see. I think we got the audio is fine. I know we got audio from this post game, but the video feed is extremely rough right now. We may take a pause. Yeah, we're gonna take a pause and try to fix this video feed. So we're gonna take a step away here for a second and get this all situated. Are we back? I think we're back. I think the video feed's good. I think it's good, folks. It might be good. We might be good. All right. Nice. Sorry for the hiatus, everybody, but we're back. Of course, welcome to the Celtics Talk Weekly postgame show, everybody. We're back. The video feed's fine. We're good. Where were we at? Sorry, folks, for the technical difficulties there. That was a perfect opportunity for us to throw up the technical difficulties screen. We don't have that. We don't have that in our possession yet. But that would have been a good opportunity. But we don't want to throw that up too often. I will say we never want to throw that up. But some technical difficulties there. Thank you all for of course sticking with us through that. But of course, afterwards, if you're not watching live, skip ahead to minute 15 because this is really where the post-game show starts. Because I was talking about it before, the Grizzlies and the Celtics. The Celtics defeat the Memphis Grizzlies 131-95 tonight. And we went over at the beginning with some poor video feed, the rebounding category in this game, the second chance points, why the Celtics were able to maintain a lead against the Memphis Grizzlies throughout the night. I do want to mention, though, and we'll go back through it real quick. Some of the numbers, the rebounding category tonight, 58-41 in favor of the Celtics. The second chance points, 34-12. The defensive rebounding, 40 defensive rebounds for the Celtics. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies, they only come up with 26. And that told a lot of the story, but that's not the entirety of the story. The Grizzlies and the Celtics, they actually took the same amount of shots tonight, or close to the same. And that's been an advantage of the Celtics all season long, is the Celtics taking more shots, taking more attempts, taking more opportunities at points than their opponent. And tonight, the Grizzlies, they shoot the ball 95 times, the Celtics 99 times, but this is where the real discrepancy comes into play. The shot making tonight. The Celtics did not rule in terms of shot advantage. I mean, they did rule in terms of shot advantage, but they did not reign and they did not dominate in that category. They only took 4 more shots, which is good, but it's only 4 more shots. Some of these games they're taking 10, 12, 14 more shots, right? Tonight, this is where the real discrepancy comes into play. 32 of 95 for the Memphis Grizzlies, 50 of 99 for the Boston Celtics. So the Celtics shoot 50.5%, and the Grizzlies shoot 33.7%. The Grizzlies make 32 shots, the Celtics make 50. There's an 18 shot made discrepancy within there, and a margin within there. As I notice our video feed is going out once again. This is a struggle on this post game apparently, but we're gonna get through it, folks. We're gonna get through it. But that category right there, the Celtics only take 4 more shots than the Grizzlies, yet they make 18 more shots. And going to the 3-point category, the 3-point made, the 3-point makes tonight for the Celtics, 21 of 51. So 21 makes from 3. It's quite a few makes for the C's, and definitely above their average for the season. The Grizzlies 10 of 43. So the Celtics, they take 8 more threes than the Grizzlies, yet they make 11 more threes than the Grizzlies. So that category right there in itself, the 3-point category, and just the overall field goal, the field goal percentage tonight between the two teams, the Celtics dominated in that category. But that's not to say why the Celtics dominated in that category. The reason the Celtics were able to dominate in that category, I won't even chalk it up to how well the Celtics played on the offensive end of the floor. I'm going to chalk it up to the Grizzlies playing tremendously poor defensively. The Grizzlies right now look like a rudderless team. They don't look like they have an identity. And I understand no Ja Morant, but we know the Ja Morant situation is not exactly secure for the Grizzlies. And I hope the audio feed, I got to say, the audio feed must be coming through right now, because the video feed, we're definitely lacking on it this particular post game. But anyway, I apologize, folks. I apologize. But the Grizzlies defense, it just, the whole game, late on rotations, just didn't feel like they had the energy to defend on or off the ball. Felt like guys were just kind of standing there off the ball And the Celtics, they brought the energy to the offensive end of the floor, and there is some motivation within the Celtics team right now. They were sitting at 5-7 coming into this game. They had just lost a close game in Philadelphia. These guys wanted to come back to Boston and win a basketball game. And the Grizzlies, on the other hand, they feel like a group of guys, just a bunch of bodies together right now with no direction. And guys don't exactly understand what they're playing for. I think that's a problem in Memphis. There's not an identity to the team right now. Players don't really understand what the plan is when it comes to how they're going to compete on both ends of the floor. It's not just I don't think players sit around and think about championships 24/7. I think some of the veteran players think about that, say like a Draymond Green or Steph Curry or a LeBron James, right? But those are the one percenters, which I believe we have somebody joining me here in studio as we wait to figure out who it is, as we put all the correct things back on screen. StreamYard is the thing. StreamYard is, it's got to get better at that. It's got to get better. But ultimately, do we have someone coming in here? Not sure. Oh, the grand entrance. Can I get a thumbs up here? Can I get a thumbs up? We got a thumbs up. It's Robbie Haytayan. It's Robbie Haytayan. Hopefully with a better video feed than me right now. I don't even know. Can you like see me?
You're breaking up a little bit, but audio's fine. We can hear you. That's what matters.
Okay. That's the good thing. We got so the podcast version of the post game show is a full go. The yes. Video feed, you're gonna be the one looking pretty today. That's where we're at.
I'll take it today. But hey, listen, Celtics won. Celtics won last night, and honestly, Seamus, I was very, very pleased with it because this kind of reminded me coming into this game, like the Utah game, where clearly better than the team coming in. You're at home. You're coming off a loss. Second night of a back-to-back. Chance you might be a little bit rusty. Boston came out. They played, I thought, some pretty stellar basketball. They really hammered down the details. And by the end of the game, I think they put together a complete 4 quarters. And they came out, and you thought to yourself, Boston looked like the better team. And it was reassuring. I think it was the first reassuring win of the season. On the contrary, it's tough when you're still 6-7 and you're only getting one of these wins as Seamus' feed drops out. But I think that's the toughest part. It's like we're flip-flopping here, fellas. First you get Seamus, now you get me. But I think the tough part, he'll be joining us shortly. I know he'll be back. Yep, there he is. Hold on. We got him back here. We got him back.
But that had nothing to do with my video feed. Franco called me. so that one, I was like, maybe it helps the video feed. I'm not sure.
But well, you know what? Came back and it's working a little bit better now.
We gotta, maybe, but gotta apologize, folks, for this run of the post game. This is not our best work. Let's just say that, folks. Let's just say that. But you mentioned the Celtics playing a full game. I want to mention tonight, and I was talking about the Grizzlies defense before you entered the broadcast here and saved us. But the box score, right? If you look at the line score for tonight, the Celtics in every single quarter, first off, they won every single quarter. They put up 30 points in every single quarter. 34 in the first, 33 in the second, 33 in the third, and 31 in the fourth. By the time the fourth quarter came around, I mean, the Celtics had no business winning that fourth quarter. It was all garbage time by the time the fourth quarter came about, and yet the Celtics still win that quarter, 31-21. And there was just no spot in this game. We looked at the lead tracker earlier when the stream was going awry, but looked at the lead tracker. This game was not entertaining. The Grizzlies gave no sign of hope to their fans in this game. They gave no sign of competition in this game. They really didn't compete whatsoever. And I'm looking at their 4-9 record going, I don't even know how they have 4 wins. I mean, what did they play the Wizards and the Nets already? That's how I can configure this, because what we saw tonight, I definitely want to give the Celtics praise, but I really believe the story starts with how bad the Memphis Grizzlies were, even without Ja Morant. I mean, no Ja Morant, you still have the rest of your team there. You should still have some level of a semblance of an identity of what you're trying to do to win a game, especially knowing all these guys. The Grizzlies' philosophy is, well, let's just take some of these bigger wings, some of these clunkier wings, and some of these, maybe they're a little versatile, but maybe they're a little clunky. You see some of the guys like John Conchard, Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams out there, see Cam Spencer. I mean, all these players on the Grizzlies, there should be some level of defensive stoutness to them, yet it just wasn't there tonight. I mean, there was a lot of late rotations, guys getting hung up on screens, not really fighting over them. On ball, the Celtics were able to get downhill. And then the rebounding category, too. The rebounding, talked about it a lot last year. If the Celtics weren't rebounding last year, it was because of their effort. It really is an effort category. Yes, there's an ability to it, but when there's a wide margin like there was tonight in the rebounding category, that shows the lack of effort from the Memphis Grizzlies, especially on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, the Celtics grabbed nearly double the amount of defensive rebounds in this game, and it just showed the lack of activity from the Grizzlies throughout the night. And this should have been a matchup the Celtics won 9 out of 10 times, considering how the Grizzlies actually came to play in this game. The Grizzlies' direction right now is extremely unknown, just like the Wizards, just like the Pelicans, just like the Jazz. And the Celtics, they unfortunately lost that Jazz game, and that's why we came on here and definitely picked apart the team that night, because they should have won that game. But these are all opponents, the Celtics, at the very least, with the Celtics looking definitely worse than they did in the past. They're at the very least better than some of these bottom feeding teams. And unfortunately, right now for the Grizzlies, they look like that bottom feeding team. And the Celtics, well, they proved they're in that mid-tier category of teams. They're in that mid-tier of the league where they're going to struggle against good teams. It's going to be a dogfight against those middling teams like the Raptors and the Sixers, teams like that. And then teams like the Grizzlies, the Nets. We'll see. The Nets are actually coming up this week. I probably should zip my mouth over that one right now, but those are the games the Celtics should win.
100%. And again, I think what was so reassuring about this win was we kind of have yet to see. I believe one time was it against Washington this year. Have we played Washington?
Yes, last Wednesday.
Yes. Okay.
That's another kind of it was notable. Blew them out, right. But it was oh wait, they're up by 10 in the second quarter right now, and we have to come back.
Right. So I think this was the first time all year where Boston comes in and they just controlled the game. They looked like the better team, right? And part of being a better team is bringing effort, right? You're 100% right. Yeah, Memphis lacked effort, but Boston could have absolutely also lacked effort alongside Memphis, and this could have been a nail-biting game. Boston came out. They showed effort. You're absolutely right. I loved what you said about the rebounding. Rebounding and defense, right? While there are a handful of guys in this league that can excel at it, right? Like you see Sabonis, right? Sabonis can give very minimal effort, and he's just got a knack for the ball. That's a great rebounder. Not much you can do about that. He can walk himself into 12, 13 rebounds from his size, from his knowledge of where the ball's going to bounce off the rim, stuff like that. But probably more than half the league, right? They don't have a guy like that. Probably more than half. So it really comes down to what team wants the ball more that night, right? They're probably going to win the rebounding battle. Boston wanted the ball more, and they showed, listen, we're going to give effort. I mean, the rebounding, 6 from Brown, 6 from Walsh, 8 from Nemia, 6 from Pritchard, 5 from White, 2 from Hauser, 4 from Simon, 7 from Garza, 5 from Minot. Everyone that played major minutes in this game, Seamus, was rebounding the basketball. That's such a positive sign. You want to see this. Now, the biggest thing for me in this win, Boston has a great opportunity here coming up. They get a couple days rest, and then they see teams that have been struggling. The Clippers on Sunday, the Nets on Tuesday, I believe we skipped, the Nets again on Friday in a cup game. So Boston now have an opportunity here at 6 and 7 to have a 3-game stretch now where if they execute like they did tonight, or last night rather, against Memphis, you'll be sitting here on a 4-game winning streak, right? Catching a groove, because yes, these are bottom feeder teams, and I believe Memphis is now probably fast tracking themselves to being sellers at the deadline. Cough, cough, Jaren Jackson Jr. for the Boston Celtics, right? They are fast tracking towards a rebuild, but Boston is in the position where these types of games and executing like how they did last night, that's how you build good habits, right? That is when you'll find yourself ripping off 5 out of the last 6. Oh, all of a sudden we're 4 games over 500. Doing it against teams like this, like the Utah Jazz, like the Memphis Grizzlies, like the Brooklyn Nets. Beating good teams, beat the bad teams by a significant amount. It's like the New England Patriots. A lot of people are like, oh, the Pats, look who they're playing. They're winning by 30. Right? It's like that's the thing. So it's not like Boston, and they've been doing this Boston this year. They've been teetering with the bad teams, like, oh, back and forth, back. You're thinking, okay, we're playing up to par with the bad teams. This was the first time I think really all year where it was like, nope, Boston came in, clearly the better team tonight, clearly had things going, and it was just a reassuring, okay, let's see if we can replicate this win.
I think, see, this is where some of the wins too, and I hate to be a negative source for anything that comes out of the Celtics commentary land, but even the wins prove that this Celtics team, the direction of it is just a middling team.
Yeah.
Because this is a game that I'd expect the Celtics to win, but it's not a game that really gives me confidence that the Celtics are going to go and compete against OKC and Houston and Denver and any of those squads. And to me, at the end of the night, it's just a game that the Celtics should handle, and they did. And it is a building block, considering last week the Celtics didn't necessarily handle the Wizards all the way through. They didn't handle the Pelicans all the way through. The Jazz, they lost to the Jazz at home. That was inexcusable at the time. It still is inexcusable right now, no matter where the Jazz are. The Jazz are a worse team than the Celtics. This game tonight, the Celtics handled it throughout, and that would be a stepping stone in the right direction, but it's still not a signature moment or a win
Well, you
that
know what
that
reminds me
that
of?
that breaks the candles, right? Where you break the
Right.
new level of the candles, where you go, oh, the Celtics, yeah, instead of being just in the middle, maybe they're inching towards the top 10. We haven't seen that yet, but it's part of the data that, to me, we're not, some of the games the Celtics are playing, we're not going to see that, right? Because Philly,
Right.
it's like we know Philadelphia played 12 quarters against Philadelphia. Philadelphia's a +2. Like that matchup is right. That matchup is. I mean, Philly and Boston are right next to each other right now. But then some of the other matchups you see the Celtics. The one matchup I'd say, or two of them, actually two of them, where the Celtics played top tier teams was the Knicks and the Rockets. Those nights, those teams were healthy. Celtics didn't look too terribly great. I mean, they honestly, I mean, let's face it, they might have looked more terrible than great that night, or those nights. So tonight's win, rather, it doesn't really do much for me on the scale of where the team's going, but it's still a positive data point and shows, okay, the Celtics are not a bottom feeding team right now, but it still raises the question as to where's the team going, because we know, okay, this Celtics team isn't at the bottom of the standings. They shouldn't be there. Yet they're still not at the top. So what exactly is the direction here? That's what this is where every single win will just confuse me throughout the season, because for every win there will be an equally terrible loss, as we're seeing so far.
100%. And it reminds me of December to February of last year, because, or really December to January, February, they started to kind of turn the ship around. But like the tough part about basketball is, in order to be convinced a team is kind of swinging, the tides shifting, it's gonna take, like, you're like a 15 game sample size, a 20 game sample size. Like, the harsh reality is, yes, this game was an absolute phenomenal win. Boston did, honestly, they checked every box tonight, right? But they're still 6-7, right? But they're still playing 500 basketball. Even if you eliminate the first 3 games of the season, right? They started off 0-3. Since then, okay, it's like, okay, they've been 6-4. That's not bad, right? But then if they went on a 3-game winning streak, right? So that's like, okay, back to 500. That's technically 500 ball. You lose 3, you win 3, right? So you scratch that. Okay, since the first 6 games, they're 3-4. So it's like, it's still just like, we haven't seen it over a stretch yet. So it's like, the thing for me is like, okay, this is a positive sign. Boston can look like this, right? But I also, on the other end of the spectrum, feel like a broken record, because it's like, okay, we've been saying this now for some time. It's like, okay, like Cleveland, we said this, right? Washington, we said this. And it's like some of these wins, right? Philly, where we had this huge lead in the second matchup, and then we win by 2 off a missed Joel Embiid prayer, right? It's like Boston right now is just simply playing 500 basketball, right? So the question is their direction ever going to be better than just a 500 basketball team? Because I believe Boston on any given night can beat any team. They have the talent to do that, but I think they also lack the talent to lose to any team. And when you're a team like that, it's just a recipe for 500 ball club for a 500 ball club, Seamus. And I think right now with the Celtics, it's, again, I don't want to hate on them for a phenomenal win, because let's not like sugarcoat it. It was a great win. You win by nearly 40 at home, right? Awesome. 131 points. You held Memphis to under 100. Great. That's awesome. You're still 6-7. So I think this next month up until Christmas is going to tell us a lot about the direction of this team. And especially when you got videos of Jason Tatum dropping, like, the same day we saw a video of Jason Tatum. Everyone saw that. He's looking sharp, right? So you're hoping as a Celtics fan and you're in the organization, listen, like if you can get above water here, right? If you can beat these bad teams, stack them, beat a couple of middle feeder teams, be a couple games over 500 by the turn of the new year. It's like I don't want to scratch this season quite yet for Boston, because they have shown signs of being able to compete. The question is just, can they consistently do it? Because right now I just see them smack dab in the middle of 500 ball club.
Well,
and that's the worst spot to be. That's the worst spot to be.
Right. And I just don't know where, because to me, I'm like, the writing is on the wall already. When we, like, any optimism and any pessimism that comes along, to me, there's the average is going to play out here. Because what the Celtics, the situation they're in right now, after every game they win, and you already mentioned it, and it's mentioned by the entirety of the Celtics media sphere, this is what the Celtics can look like after they win each ball game. This is what the Celtics can look like. That's what the Celtics look like against teams who are on the same level as them or worse than them. Yet when they play real teams who are fully healthy, because the Cavs played the Cavs, but they were not fully healthy that night at all. If we really go back and look at that game, we talked about that on that post game. But against the good teams, the Celtics get trounced. And there's only been 2 of those games this year so far. It was against the Knicks, and actually I'll say 3 of those games: Knicks, Pistons, and Rockets. And I felt as if the Pistons game, that was the Celtics' best of those 3. But at the same time, the Celtics were outworked down the stretch in that ball game, out-rebounded, and on both ends of the floor, just outclassed. And so far, Orlando, they're supposed to be that team. They showed on Friday. Orlando was supposed to be, up in the standings. Friday looked like, well, this is what a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference looks like. Of course, the Celtics beat them on Sunday. That's a 2-game series. The data there is always a little skewed on the 2-game series, especially for that second game. But up to this point, this is what the Celtics can look like. No, this is what the Celtics look like against teams that are either below them or on the same level as them. And there are a lot of teams still above the Celtics who the Celtics have yet to face. And when they do face them, the flaws come out. So that's where I just question where this season is going, because as much as we can give optimism for the moments in which the Celtics win and all of the moments where the Celtics are putting positive data points forth and showing us this is what they can be, for all of those moments, there are more moments that suggest that this team is just in the middle. They're just smack dab in the middle. They're not going to reach extra heights unless, and Franco has been on this point a million times, as he's in the comments section right now, but he's been on this point a million times, is that the Celtics roster is imbalanced and needs to change. There's no real big man. The guard play right now is a mess. You have Simons, Pritchard, White, Brown. They don't know how to play with each other. And that's where the cap is on this team. It's that big man spot. And it is that guard play. The forwards, we already know. Jason Tatum's out of the lineup. That's the biggest issue with the forwards. After that, you actually have some encouraging guys. You have Sam Hauser, he's not going to be a defensive guy, but he's going to give you some shooting. You have Minot, who's going to Minot and Walsh, who's going to give you similar attributes on both ends of the floor. But the Celtics constructed as a team, they're only going to go so far with this roster. And that's where every time it's, oh, well, this is what the Celtics can look like. It's like, that's just a fallacy. That's everybody saying, well, they could look like this against OKC. They could look like this against Houston. They could look like this against Denver and Cleveland and New York and Detroit. But the reality is the Celtics don't look like that against those teams and never will because of how the roster is constructed. That's bottom line.
100%. But you know what? Also, I think, Seamus, I think there's unfair expectations on the Celtics team, and that shouldn't be the expectation, right? I think what the expectation for this year should be is to show positive signs that you can play winning basketball and be a piece away once Tatum returns. Right? Because the truth is it would be unrealistic to look at this team, right, and Missoula and these players and the organization and say, why can't we beat OKC? Why can't we beat the top seed in the East, right? Like, why can't we do that? It's like, well, that's unfair, right? Tatum's out of the lineup. You got a new crew. Obviously there's holes in the lineup. But I think what the expectations for this team should be is, okay, against the middle portion of contenders, right, against teams that are battling for the 4th through 6th seed, maybe 7th seed, kick it out west 4, like those teams, right? The middle of the playoff teams. Are you at par with those teams? I think that should be the expectation. Can you compete with those teams? And if the answer is yes, and you're Brad Stevens, right? And you're at the deadline, that's when you make your move. Okay, we can add a piece to this roster, right? We will go out and we will fill that big man position because we have positioned ourselves. Okay, if we can compete with these teams and we bring in a valuable big man, and it's March 1st and Jason Tatum's a little bit healthy, let's roll the dice here, right? That's the direction you go. And on the flip side, if you can't compete with those teams in the middle portion, that's fine, right? You're sellers at the deadline. Okay, we're going to dump a little bit more salary. We're going to get a couple more pieces. We're going to put ourselves in a situation to retool and rebuild in this offseason. You'll get Tatum back. You'll have Brown. You'll have your core. You'll roll into the next year with a higher draft pick, with a younger core, and with a team ready to compete. So I think it is completely unfair to look at this team and say compete with the top dogs. Unfair. Let's not even entertain that conversation, right? Let's entertain okay, what does it look like against the Miami Heat, against the Philadelphia 76ers, against the Los Angeles Lakers, right? The teams that right now you should be par with, right? Boston should be a 7-4 ball club. They just should. Like I look at how Miami's playing and what Miami's got, and it's like they should be, right? But they're not. So it's like
6-7.
They are
6-7.
So it's like, that's the expectation. That's the expectation for this team. Put the pressure on Brad to, at the deadline, have to say, you know what? Tatum's almost 100%, if not 100%. I mean, you saw that video. That does not look like a guy that needs 8 more months to recover, right? And you can make a move at the deadline to bring in you talk about a Jaren Jackson Jr., right? Or a Domantas Sabonis. Some of these bigger centers where cap-wise you can go for, they're younger. You add a Sabonis, you add a Jaren Jackson, you add a Jason Tatum to this team. You're sitting there thinking, we can compete as a 4 seed. If Boston can just hover around 6 in that 5-6 area, maybe 7, and you get at the deadline and Tatum looks ready to go, why not go for it? The East you got the Pistons as the 1 seed right now. You bring Tatum back, you bring a Sabonis in, you strike big, you get a Jaren Jackson. Now you got something all of a sudden. And that's my point.
That's where everything right now, it's very early, right? We always have to remind ourselves October, November is so early to tell exactly where every team is going. I would generally lean in the direction, like say there are going to be some key stretches that come up for the Celtics, because up to this point, I believe the competition's been light. You'd say the hardest games would be, any game against Philadelphia is going to be a little more contested, right? And all those games have been close. But you have New York, Detroit, Cleveland, Houston, Orlando, you would say, right? But Orlando's not playing up to par. Cleveland was not healthy that night. And the two best teams we really faced, it was Houston and New York, fully healthy. And Houston was on the second night of a back-to-back. If anybody wants to say anything about that one, Shireman. If you look at the who had the highest amount of points on the Celtics each game, Shireman, 17 against Houston, actually owns a game this year. But the stretch is coming up, right? Next week, the Celtics have the Clippers and Nets twice. That's not going to tell me anything about the team. I expect the team to go 3-0 there and actually put themselves at a good record. But this is where they could build, right? The Celtics, after that stretch, facing the Clippers and the Nets, and the Clippers are going cross court, or rather, cross court. They will be going across court eventually in Boston when they go coast to coast. They're going to be cross country. The Clippers, that'll be a 2:30 game, or rather a 3:30 Eastern game next Sunday, and then 2 games against the Nets, a home and home. But the stretch I'm looking at after that, Orlando on a Sunday, Detroit on a Wednesday, Minnesota on a Saturday, Cleveland on a Sunday, and then New York on a Tuesday. And that's basically Thanksgiving week. Right? Thanksgiving is smack dab in the middle of that stretch. So Orlando, Detroit, Minnesota, Cleveland, New York. And then they face Washington. So the Celtics face Washington. That stretch right there, I think, could tell us some things about this team, especially considering they'll be at Minnesota and at Cleveland. So it'll be at home versus Orlando, at home versus Detroit. Those are two teams that are not completely proven. Detroit's playing really well. Orlando, not so much. But then you have Minnesota, Cleveland on the road, and those are weirdly timed games. I will say they're 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. games Eastern. And then you play a game against the Knicks. Anytime we face the Raptors, the Knicks, the Sixers, I feel like those are always tough games in division. We see those teams so often. But that's a stretch right there that could tell us something about this team. Because up to this point, there's mixed signals. There's the expectations have been somewhat met when it comes to the team playing 500. And I wouldn't even say expectations have been completely met. I would say this team's actually doing worse than expected up to this point in a couple of these games, especially games, say the Utah game, maybe one of the Philly games you'd expect them to play better in, right? Some of those. So I mean, they're not playing too much worse than you'd expect up to this point, but the Celtics are a little below expectations. These next 3 games, I would expect the Celtics to knock them out. Clippers are going to be tougher than people think because they're the Clippers. They're a veteran team. People look at their record, oh, a bunch of old men, but you never know. Harden and even Brook Lopez, he's a Celtics killer. But after that, Orlando, Detroit, Minnesota, Cleveland, New York. That could tell us something about the Celtics. If the Celtics go 2-3 in that stretch, what does that really say? What does that really say? It matters what the Celtics look like in those 2 wins, but if they're just 2-3, that confirms more of the narrative of the Celtics are still just in the middle and the direction is unclear. But it does have to do with relativity to the rest of the league too. As you mentioned, Detroit as the first seed in the Eastern Conference, by the time the deadline comes around, what exactly is the rest of the conference relative to the Celtics going to look like? Because the Celtics, they might be near 500 still, right? We might be griping about, they're 500. 500 record might be the 5th seed in the East, the 6th seed in the East, like you're talking about at a certain point in the season. And if the Celtics are playing well enough and forming an identity, that's going to be so important as the Celtics continuously forming an identity. This was a good game to, I don't want to say completely form the identity because quite frankly, the Grizzlies just didn't give much effort and didn't put up much competition. And I think the identity formation comes within the moments in which teams face adversity against real squads. But this was a good one to maybe form a little bit of it at the beginning of the season. But the Celtics in their entirety, going towards the deadline, we're going to have to see something other than what we've seen through the first 13 games. Because I realize right now, it's like, wow, we're 13 games in. The team's 1 game under 500. And it's
Right.
not necessarily comfortable.
Well, so like that's where for me it's not comfortable at all. You got it 100% right. So that's where it's like, okay, if we were to start the marker today, right? Well, or yesterday, right? 13 games in, 12 games in, right? We'll count the 13th game. You got 3 of these next games. You got right. You got Brooklyn twice. You got LA once. The Clippers. I agree. Clippers are going to be a harder game than you think. You only see them twice a year. It's a West Coast matchup. Anytime you see a West Coast team, you're gonna play a little bit better than you think. But say they manage to go 3-0 in that stretch, right? And you're going into the next 4 games, right? You got 4 pretty easy ones. You got 4 pretty tough ones. And then you get Washington. We'll group them in, right? So we'll really look at the whole. We'll look at we'll look at the 10-game sample size, right? We'll count the back-to-back. So you're 1-1 now. You pick up 3 wins against the teams you should beat. You're 4-1 in the past 5 games, right? Positive. Say you split against those 4 tough matchups. You can split there and beat Washington, right? You go 3-2 in that area. All of a sudden, you're 7-3 in those last 10 games, right? And for me, Seamus, I'm in a position with the Celtics. Just stack wins. Just stack wins, right? Just win. Just get over 500. Put yourself again in a position to be a potential competitor, right? That's where it's like, if Boston goes 2-3 and they manage to sweep, right? These upcoming 3 games, they're 6-4. It's like, that's not terrible. That's 2 games over 500. That's progress, right? And it's like, for me, it's like, I just need to see this team over these 10-game portion sizes just be over 500, right? 6-4, 6-4, 7-3. Maybe you got 5-5 stretch, but it's just like, just stack wins. I don't really care who it's against. And right now, I'm not really concerned even how it looks, I think. I don't really think I care how it looks. I just want to see them to put the pressure on Brad to potentially choose a direction, right? Where it's like, that's my thing, where it's like, I understand the direction of the ship, currently speaking, is most likely 500, right? And I will be adamant on that until I'm convinced otherwise. But if you can stack wins, you put the pressure on Brad to say, okay, maybe we should do something here, right? We're 6 games over 500 at the deadline. I've already gone on this spiel. So that's, for me, it's like, that's where I'm at. Just win. Stack some wins. You're under 500. Find a way to get 4 or 5 games over 500. Give yourself some leeway, right? Just try. I don't care if it's against the 1-10 Nets. I don't care if it's against the 3-9 Clippers. I don't care if it's against the 4-9 Grizzlies. Just win the game, right? Just win. Show up and win. And I think that's what my expectation for this team is now. It's like, listen, I'm going to look at this team through 10-game sample sizes. Every 10 games, okay, where are we at? How did we do these last 10 games? How do we perform? How do we look? What was our record? And the truth is that if they're keep being 5-5, 4-6, 5-5, maybe a 6-4, it's like, okay, well, it's like, start selling, right? Because that's not a team that's a piece away, right? That's just not. A 500 team is never a piece away. That's how I look at it.
And I somewhat see, this is my thing. I somewhat agree with that. And the reason I say somewhat is I believe the process of winning is important, but we saw in 21-22 that the stacking of wins potentially could lead to the process of winning improving and becoming something real. Because in 21-22, right, that team was 18-21. The way they were playing was super inefficient. Marcus Smart, Schroeder, Josh Richardson at the guard position. I mean, just super inefficient team. And yet that team was able to go on a little bit of a run right before the deadline at the end of January. And I remember we were saying, I don't believe this team. I don't know yet. They're stacking some wins, but we've seen this before. Well, those wins eventually led to the Celtics pulling the trigger on Derek White, and which eventually led to a championship later on down the line, and a significant piece of that championship squad in Derek White, contributing to that 2022 squad as well, the Eastern Conference Champions squad. Cannot look that squad over whatsoever. Always talking about the championship squad, 21-22, they won the East. That's no joke. But that year, the wins, there was not a definitive process in place during the winning before the deadline. Yet, when the deadline came around, the team was balanced, And that's what this team needs as well. That's a definitive issue with this team. The balance is not there. Franco has been very adamant about it since the middle of the summer, and especially when he realized the Celtics, this is the roster we're coming into the season with, completely imbalanced squad. However, if they can stack some wins, it potentially could force Brad Stevens to consider balancing the team come deadline. And even if Jason Tatum feels great, maybe he's back in March or April. That's not off the table at this point. You got to think, seeing those videos. I leaning on the side of caution with Tatum. I think the Celtics will be ultra cautious with Tatum, but we've seen crazier things happen in sports. And let's face it, crazier things happen within Celtics Nation. I'm talking about this like, oh yeah, this could totally happen because we've seen, let's face it, I mean, that we've seen outcomes less probable play out for the C's in the past. This could be no different.
You're 100% right. And I think that's the tough part about where we're at is we have seen this team play really good basketball. We have seen this team play really bad basketball. Right now, I would say that they more lean towards the bad side, barely. Obviously, they're 6-7. So it's like, it's that's where I'm at with that. It's like that's for me. But again, Seamus, the Celtics, they have a matchup coming up on Sunday. How about that? They get, and every time I keep looking at the schedule, I'm like, am I missing it? Because I'm on the NBA app, so I click through.
It's like
so
NBA Cup somewhere in there. Like,
yeah, I know. It's so weird schedule. They played a back-to-back Tuesday, Wednesday, obviously. Now they have a 4-day rest or a 3-day rest, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They come back home against the Los Angeles Clippers on Sunday at 3:30 this time. That is confirmed. I thought Orlando was at 3:30. No, Orlando was at 6. The Clippers are at 3:30 back at the Garden. We talked a little bit here about, what needs to happen. Clippers are kind of this like, this team that could come in. Yes, they're 3-8, but they're West Coast and, they're a team full of vets. So what are you looking at from a Boston side of things in terms of continuing to take the steps in potentially walking out a win against the LA Clippers?
Well, this game against the Clippers is going to be mildly tough given the Clippers' size. I think that's the overlooked thing in the NBA, right? Is, oh, look, this team has this record and this team has this record early on in the season, not factoring in the fact a lot of these teams, the play style matters, right? If the Clippers have played a bunch of teams who simply, let's face it, if they're playing a style, and they're a new team too. The Clippers are a little bit of a new team. They made a lot of transactions over the summer. That team, if they're not necessarily in line with their identity early and are playing bad matchups, well, then it's going to lead to a bad record. And that doesn't necessarily say that the Clippers with a 3-7 record or 3-8, whatever they are right now in the standings record coming into Boston. Oh, well, they're just a bad team and the Celtics should win. Well, the Celtics, they lack some size. The Clippers have some size. And I'm looking to this point. I'm looking at the schedules up to this point, and I believe the Clippers and the Celtics, this could be a matchup the Celtics don't exactly, I don't want to say they don't want to see it, but it's not going to be a comfortable matchup for them whatsoever. And the Clippers this season, so far, I mean, they lost to the Jazz to start the season. They lost to the Warriors. They lost to the Heat, the Thunder. They lost to the Suns twice, the Hawks, and the Nuggets. So they played some pretty good teams up to this point. Obviously, the Nuggets and the Thunder in there. The Suns, you could say, I mean, that's a matchup. I mean, I know they were injured for a couple of these games, but this is why I wouldn't look past the Clippers. They played some tough matchups so far. I think some of their matchups, they didn't necessarily fall in line with their identity, or at least rather their play style, their identity didn't match well with what their matchup actually called for. And so on Sunday, this is going to be a game the Celtics have. I don't want up to this point, every single game, oh, the Celtics have to win this game, or oh, this is a must win. Let's see some consistency. All right, the Celtics just beat the Grizzlies at home, thumped them. Got to see that against the Clippers too. We're not going to see another. I don't expect to see another blowout, but I want to see another win at the Garden, especially with the week coming up. The Celtics can get a win against the Clippers. Well, then you have two Nets games in front of you. All of a sudden, you're back to 500 if you win that Clippers game. And those two Nets games, then you're 2 games above 500. Maybe you're up in the standings. And then that stretch, that 5-game stretch where the Celtics face nothing but good teams in that 5-game stretch over the Thanksgiving week and a half, the Celtics can go into that with a good record, a good standing. They could actually create something out of the season. Now, they come out flat against the Clippers on Sunday after basically, 3.5 days rest. Then that's going to be part of the story once again. It's going to be an extension of the story we've already been talking about. Brad Stevens always talked about shifting the narrative, changing the narrative. Right now, the narrative is Celtics are a 500 basketball team. They'll lose to the good teams. They'll compete against the mid-tier teams, and they'll usually beat the bad teams. That's where the narrative is. The Celtics are just a middling franchise that up to this point has leaned more on the side of negative when it comes to that middle. Leaned on the side of negative. Brad Stevens always talked about shifting the narrative. This would be a great stretch next week against bad teams, and then after that, with maybe a positive record against good teams, to completely shift that narrative. That is what is in front of the Celtics right now on Sunday.
Absolutely. Boston is presented here with an opportunity to give themselves a little bit of breathing room and a little bit of life. Boston has kind of been stuck in this loophole. Not kind of, they have been, of just win, loss, loss, win, like loss, win, loss. So it's just like, they've been in this balance beam that's kind of just like boop, 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 boop. So these next 3 games, and especially this game against the Clippers, is absolutely an opportunity for this team to kind of get their feet on the ground and get settled and get ready for that 4-game stretch against, I'm going to call it a 4-game stretch because Washington, you see at the back end of it. And that's a game that you should come out there and handle. But it's like, for me, it's like, this is a great opportunity. I was on record this post-game show saying just win. Stands true. Just win, right? Beat the Clippers, right? But in the process of that, start to get your feet under you, right? Really start to, and that's a great point by Franco. This is a big team. Got to rebound. Start to do those things. Start to consistently crash the glass, consistently show effort, consistently have an offensive game plan to get ready, and that can be consistent, right? Boston has looked good actually these past couple. I thought against Philly, up until the last back end of the fourth quarter, offensively, they were doing a lot of good things, right? They were getting to the paint. They were getting good shots. They were going through an offense that has looked good. The past 5 games, the offense has looked good, really, ever since, and I'm not saying this has any correlation, but it's funny. Ever since I called Mazzulla out, it's starting to look a little bit better. And again, I'm not saying that has any correlation at all. I'm just saying there's irony in that. And so that's what I'm looking to see from an offensive standpoint. Continue to do the things that have made this offense flow for us to for not just stretches, right? For 48 minutes, do the things that you can sustain an offense over the course of a basketball game, over the course of a week, over the course of a month. And then on the defensive end of the floor, LA's kind of like this slow, sloppy team at times. They're just kind of running isocentric still for Harden with Kawhi Leonard out of the lineup. They're big, they're physical, they're veterans. If you give them life, they'll take it. They'll rip it from you. So don't give them life. Play from ahead and play a complete 48 minutes of basketball. And I think you have positioned yourself to be 7-7, 500 with a handful of games that you can win and a handful of games you can lose coming up. And that will kind of be okay. 20 at the end of this stretch, Seamus, we're 20 games in. We're almost at that 25 game mark where it's like, okay, you kind of know what you got. So it's like, here we are. This, for the first time, is like, let's go. Like, Celtics fans, this is it. Like, these next 6 games are going to tell us a whole lot about the Boston Celtics and what their potential direction could be this season. And it starts Sunday afternoon against the Los Angeles Clippers. Again, tip-off for that will be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Lucky for us Boston fans, the Pats, well, they play tonight, so there's no contradictory. That last weekend, you saw a 1 p.m. start, and it kind of leaked into the Celtics. It didn't leak into the Celtics start. You had a back-to-back. Well, this Sunday, guys, don't worry, a 3:30 start, but the Pats play tonight, so you get to check that out. Again, as for last night, guys, the Celtics, they pick up a big-time blowout win against a weaker Memphis Grizzlies team. 131-95 was your final score. last night from the TD Garden. Guys, we will be live after the final buzzer sounds, directly after the final buzzer sounds on Sunday, right back here on CTW Postgame show. I will say this, guys, if you're not subscribed already, subscribe right now. While you're at it, turn on post notifications so you get alerted whenever we go live, whether it's after the final buzzer, whether it's the next day, whether it's a special, you'll get alerted. Guys, again, we will see you Sunday night after the final buzzer sounds against the Los Angeles Clippers. I'm your host, Rob Haytayan. Joined with me is my co-host, Seamus Zarlingo. Guys, thank you so much. And as always,